See if you can guess this one. Coming up next, it's the unbelievable story of 5 artists who passed on collaborating with one of the most iconic musicians of the past 4 decades. Working with this guy was a golden opportunity that only came by his request. With a steady stream of hit albums, a catalog of legendary songs, and so many unforgettable music videos, it was extremely rare for anyone to tell this artist no. And these guys did, passing up on an opportunity of a lifetime. I mean, one band even estimated they sold an additional 1 million records after agreeing to work with this guy. So what made these 5 bold musicians so bold as to turn him down? We'll find out, plus we'll get the story of one artist who agreed to collaborate but flipped out about this song after it was released. Stick around for an intriguing story coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember creating and playing with creepy crawlers back in the day, you're gonna dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now, click the big red button and click the bell so you always know when our latest interviews and videos drop. We also have a Patreon, you're gonna wanna check that out. You can get more content and you can become an honorary producer to help us curate this music history. So if you haven't guessed, today we're talking about Weird Al Yankovic. For this episode, we're doing something a little bit different. I think you're gonna like it though. Let's get into it. Alfred Matthew Yankovic, no doubt, one of the nicest guys in all of show business. The Prince of Parody, the Sultan of Satire. He's always gone the extra mile to be respectful of the musicians he spoofs, which means he always asks for permission before including a parody of their song on an album. This despite the fact that his work is legally protected as a form of free speech because it's satire. But this nice guy approach, it's served Weird Al well over the years. According to Al, it's rare for any artist to turn down one of his requests. He's actually estimated that 97 or 98% of all artists he's asked have given him the green light. Said Al in a quote, "I've been doing this for a while now and I have a track record. Most artists look at it as a badge of honor." Many legendary artists have told me over the years as I've done interviews with them, and I always ask them about if Weird Al covers their song. They say, if Weird Al does your song, you know you've made it. But today we're zeroing in on that 2 or 3% who have told Weird Al no. It's a list that includes the likes of U2's Bono, Zeppelin's Jimmy Page, Eminem, and Beck, as well as 5 more artists who I believe have some of the best Weird Al rejection stories. Those are the ones that we're gonna cover today. Most would admit to regretting it later, although there is one who consistently said no, and he never said why. Let's see if you can guess who it is. What can you say? These artists, they missed out. Here are 5 favorite stories of musicians who passed up on the parody from Weird Al. Coming up first, counting them down, really not in any order, but number 5, Sir Paul McCartney. Weird Al, just like the rest of us, is a huge fan of the Beatles, so it's no surprise he would look to honor his heroes in the form of satire. And from time to time, he has, including this spoof of the George Harrison solo hit Got My Mind Set on You.
6 words long, this song is just 6 words long.
However, for one reason or another, some of Al's best Beatles-related tracks never got off the ground. For example, early in his career, Al had an unhappy run-in with the Beatles' legal team. Before ever landing a recording contract, Al wrote his own version of the Beatles song Taxman. He called it Pac-Man.
'Cause I'm the tax man, but now it's Pac-Man.
He actually sent a copy of Pac-Man to the Dr. Demento show, and it got a great reaction from Dr. D's listeners. However, a cease and desist letter from some attorneys representing the Beatles forced the song off the airwaves, and Pac-Man subsequently missed out on Al's debut album. The good news is that Pac-Man turned up on 2017 Squeezebox, the complete works of Weird Al Yankovic. Guess the Beatles' legal team no longer had any objections. So years after Taxman, Al had the brilliant idea to turn Paul McCartney's Wings-era classic Live and Let Die into Chicken Pot Pie.
Say live and let die.
Ah, what a genius. Now, unfortunately, once again, it was not to be. explaining why. Weird Al said, "Paul didn't want me to do it because he's a strict vegetarian, and he didn't want a parody that condoned the consumption of animal flesh. He said, you can do something else like tofu pie." And I said, "No, the chorus of my song will be bok, 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 and tofu, it doesn't make any noise. It's just not gonna work." Still, Al called Paul a good sport and said he understood his reasoning. McCartney even told Al that if he could think of any other subject, he was happy to okay it. Fortunately, thanks for the internet, you can hear part of Chicken Pot Pie online, since Al has performed portions of it in his live shows.
It's chicken pot pie.
So one last Beatles connection. In 1996, Al wrote a parody of Free as a Bird called Gee, I'm a Nerd. Al approached Paul McCartney about it. However, since John Lennon had written Free as a Bird, McCartney deferred to Yoko Ono on the matter, and as you might have guessed, Yoko refused to let Al do this. But all's not lost. Once again, Al has performed it live in concert, and you can watch it online. In fact, I'll link to all of these below so you can see these. So we're counting them down here at number 4. Another rejecting artist here. It's another huge name. I'm talking about the purple one himself, Prince. This one may have been the most vexing of all of his rejections because it happened repeatedly, and Prince never gave an explanation. Weird Al reportedly petitioned Prince to parody just about all of his biggest hits, including 1999, When Doves Cry, Let's Go Crazy, Purple Rain, and Kiss. Said Al about it, "In the 80s and early 90s, there were a number of songs I wanted to do, and he's always turned them down and never really given a reason. All he could say was no." For 1999, Al had a parody in mind that had a guy selling various kinds of products on TV for only $19.99. That one was turned down. Oh, that would have been genius. For Al's comedy classic film UHF, he asked Prince if he could reimagine Let's Go Crazy as a Beverly Hills Billy themed track. That was shot down, of course, but then he turned his Beverly Hillbillies idea into a Dire Straits Money for Nothing parody, which I think was probably even better. And then there's one of my favorites, one that Yankovic repeatedly tried to get Prince to sign off on, but never could get him to do it. A parody of Purple Rain called Yellow Snow.
Purple rain, purple rain.
Can only imagine how brilliant that one would have been. But of course, Prince, he just wasn't having it. But the story, it doesn't end there. More weirdness would ensue. It is Prince, of course. Although the two never officially met, Al and Prince were in the same room together many times. One of those times was at the American Music Awards, back when they had that. It was a big thing. Guess the two were slotted to sit in the same row, and beforehand, Al received a telegram from Prince's management company saying that he was forbidden to establish eye contact with Prince during the show. Al couldn't believe it. In response, Al immediately sent Prince a telegram back cautioning him that he shouldn't make eye contact with Al either. I actually had an artist tell me that when I interviewed him once, that not to look him in the eye. More on that in the future. Now, throughout his career, Al has taken some good-natured jabs at Prince. For example, check out the UHF music video where Al mimics Prince's signature Purple Rain look. And the bathtub scene from When Doves Cry. It's classic. Or more recently, when in Weird, the Al Yankovic story, Al goes head-to-head with Prince for a prestigious award at the end of the movie. Prince is clearly devastated when Al is declared the winner. Said Al in 2016, and I quote, "It's too bad. I hadn't approached him in about 20 years because he always said no. But I had this fantasy that he'd come out with a new song, I'd have a great idea, he'd finally say yes, and it would erase decades of weirdness between us. But that's obviously not going to be the case now." I think Prince became a lot more happy-go-lucky as the years went by, so I think it could have worked out. So sad we lost Prince. Coming in at number 3 is another offender. It's actually something of a surprise because in the past he'd already authorized 2 of his massive hits to receive the Weird Al treatment, and one of them put him on the map.
Don't you tell me you're full, just eat it, eat it. Take up 7 rolls because I'm fat, fat, fat. Come on.
Talking about the king of pop, Michael Jackson, who had previously given the go-ahead for Beat It and Bad, but the third time would prove not to be the charm for Weird Al. Going into the 90s, Al was staggering from the commercial failure of UHF and its soundtrack, and for a 3-year period between 1989 and 1992, Weird Al didn't release a single album. Terrified his career might be over if he delivered another flop, it was during this time in a moment of desperation that Al Yankovic returned to the well of Jackson hits and came away with his third MJ food-related parody, a song based on Michael's global hit Black or White that went to #1 for many weeks. The would-be headliner for his comeback album was called Snack All Night, and Al admitted it was an act of desperation. Jackson seemed to instinctively understand this as well, and wanting to protect the legacy of his hit, he told Al no for once. Said Yankovic, I certainly don't hold that against him. At the time he was saying that Black or White was this big social political statement, and he wasn't comfortable with the parody. I'd like to think that he was actually doing me a favor, saving me from myself. He was the adult in the room going, Al, come on, really? Are we gonna do this again? Jackson had already made Yankovic's career by saying yes to a parody of Beat It. Like I said, that put him on the map with Eat It.
Get yourself an egg and beat it. Have some more chicken.
This time, Michael, he may have saved it by turning Al down. Even Al's bandmates said this song wasn't his best work. Understandably disappointed at the time, though. That feeling of rejection, it wouldn't last too long because soon Al had Nirvana on the hook for a parody of Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Now I'm mumbling and I'm screaming.
And of course, that became the perfect song to jumpstart his career. In Al's words, Jackson turning him down, it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
I still don't know what I'm singing.
Even so, this didn't stop Al from performing Snack All Night in concert from time to time.
Round to see ya, it don't matter if you snack all night.
So as we get into our #2 artist who rejected a parody, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses I always wear on this show. Right now, if you click on our info button right up here, or go to the link in our description, you can get up to 80% off regular retail prices when it comes to purchasing prescription glasses. I mean, you can get 3 or 4 pair for what you'd normally spend for just 1. With so much variety at Zenni, you can design your own look, your own frames, what looks good on you, and you can do it without breaking the bank. Go do it today, check it out.
Left of me, got a bag of chocolate chips on the right.
So coming in at #2 is Rivers Cuomo, the frontman of Weezer. In 1996, Weird Al compiled several popular alternative rock songs into a polka medley called the Alternative Polka. Highlighted were bands like Stone Temple Pilots and Foo Fighters and Green Day. I think REM was in there, Smashing Pumpkins, Soundgarden.
Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage.
But also intended for this medley was Weezer's hit Buddy Holly. However, Weezer frontman Cuomo reneged at the last minute. This forced Al to pull the plug on his take. Said Yankovic about it, it was completely recorded and we were about to do the final mix when we got a call from Weezer's management. Apparently the song's writer, Rivers, he decided for whatever reason that he didn't want his song in my medley after all. So at the very last minute, we had to physically cut the song out. Still kind of bummed about it. It sounded really, really cool. In fact, it was so last minute that the special thanks had already been printed on the CD and cassette booklets. So actually, Weezer got the thanks without the song.
I don't owe you anything. Black hole sun, won't you come?
Reportedly, Rivers was kind of self-conscious about being taken seriously as an artist at the time. I guess he was concerned that including Buddy Holly in the Al's Polka medley might make a mockery of him. But despite the last-minute subtraction, Weird Al and Weezer, they've become pretty tight over the years, and Al has received permission to parody other Weezer tracks, for example. 2005, Al asked Weezer to use lyrics from their song Beverly Hills in another polka medley called Polkarama. That one landed on Al's 2006 album Straight Outta Linwood.
Living in Beverly Hills, Beverly Hills.
Oh, he's always so great. Then in 2008, Al recorded a song called Skip Her Down in the style of Weezer's Pork and Beans. That was released on his 2009 EP Internet Leaks, and then also on 2011's Apocalypse.
On the Jungle Cruise ride, Skip Her Down is the name.
In more recent memory, Weird Al also starred in the music video for Weezer's cover of Africa by Toto. Really fun one to watch there. Incidentally, Yankovic has also released an unmixed and unmastered version of the Buddy Holly polka online for free. The actual cover comes in at less than 20 seconds. Check it out. Okay, so we've gotten 4 out of 5. Now it's time to wrap it up. Number 1 with an artist who rejected Al's parody not before it was released, but after. From his 1996 album Bad Hair Day, the song is Amish Paradise. A laugh-out-loud spoof of Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise. Gangsta's Paradise was a hit single for Coolio's 1995 album of the same name. Of course, it was featured on the Dangerous Minds soundtrack. Went to number 1 around the world in, I think, something like 20 countries. The song was all over the airwaves. In the video, it was all over MTV. In 1996, Gangsta's Paradise also won the Grammy for Best Rap Performance. All of this put a bullseye on this song, as Weird Al was always looking to lampoon commercial smash hits, the biggest of the biggest. Recounting Amish Paradise's origins, Al said, and I quote, "The song came about because Coolio's hit, Gangsta's Paradise, had been number 1 on the chart for a few weeks. And I was thinking, how could I twist this? And then when I thought of Amish Paradise, it was this weird epiphany. I thought, oh no, I have to do this. It's just too perfect." End of quote. Yankovic called the premise a comedy of opposites, saying that there was nothing more diametrically opposed to the gangster lifestyle than the Amish lifestyle. He thought it'd be hilarious to have this Amish person rapping about life on the mean streets of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. For the music video, Al goes full Amish, while Coolio's video featured a face-off between himself and the star of Dangerous Minds, Michelle Pfeiffer. Al, for his own version, stares down Florence Henderson of the Brady Bunch.
I've been milking and plowing so long that
the video is, of course, filled with all kinds of Weird Al's antics. And like the rest of Al's video catalog, it's downright a spectacle, hilarious.
kicked me in the butt last week. I just smiled at him and I turned the other cheek.
However, Coolio, he wasn't laughing. In fact, the rapper was angry over Al's parody, calling it out as a desecration of his song. To make things worse, Coolio said he never sanctioned it. Al was shocked. He'd done his due diligence and had received permission from Coolio's producer and record label. He was under the impression that Coolio was really cool with it.
Buttons, but I got a cool hat, and my homies agree I really look good in black, fool.
Al Ever the Prankster couldn't help pushing his luck at the 1996 American Music Awards, though. He showed up with the exact same hairstyle as the rapper. The two were slotted to be on stage together, and Coolio had no idea that Al was mimicking his hair until about 30 seconds before going on stage. It could have been a disaster, but thankfully, as Al tells it, Coolio laughed it off and he just shook his hand. Years later, Coolio had a change of heart about Amish Paradise, though. He said that the way he reacted was one of the least smart things he'd ever done over the years. He said, and I quote, "I should have never been upset about that. I should have embraced it like everybody else did. Michael Jackson never got mad at him. Who was I to take the position that I took?" So yeah, Coolio, he eventually came around. And how could he not? It's Weird Al.
Yeah.
So there you have it. 5 artists who, for better or worse, rejected Weird Al's parody requests. Of course, beyond these stories, there are even more that I could tell. I mentioned a few artists at the beginning. There's even more than that. Weird Al Yankovic. He's a national treasure. I love him. If you're an 80s kid, you have to. He's actually agreed to do an interview with me. Just trying to get it scheduled on the calendar, so stay tuned for that. It's coming soon. Let me know if I should do a part 2 of this Weird Al Rejections episode. Maybe we can ask him about it. I've got so many artists that have whose songs he's parodied who have mentioned Weird Al and what they think of it, so I'd love to intercut that with the interview. Anyway, if you love Weird Al, comment below. Let's have a great discussion. What's your favorite of these parodies? What parodies should Weird Al have done over the years? Let's have some fun ones down below. Let's have a great discussion. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.